He thought he could keep his secrets hidden, but when she showed up uninvited to his ex's wedding, his true colors were exposed for everyone to see. Maya was done being disrespected. When her wealthy ex-boyfriend James made her feel small, she walked away with her dignity intact. But what he didn't know was that she had receipts, literal proof of his shocking behavior. And when the opportunity arose to reveal the truth, she didn't just take it, she made sure everyone at the wedding saw who James really was. Maya had been in a relationship with James, a successful businessman known for his charm and wealth. But behind closed doors, James was a different man. While dating, Maya noticed subtle yet cutting remarks that hinted at his prejudice. He would say things like, "You're so articulate for someone from your background," or, "Do you ever feel out of place at events like these? You know, with people like us." Maya ignored the red flags at first, convincing herself that he didn't mean any harm. But things escalated during a gala they attended together. When introducing her to his friends, James joked, "Maya's proof that even people from modest beginnings can polish up nicely." The laughter stung more than the words, and Maya began to realize who James truly was. The final straw came during a heated argument, where James let his mask slip entirely. "Do you really think someone like you belongs in my world?" he spat, his voice dripping with condescension. Maya ended the relationship immediately, but she couldn't shake the humiliation and pain he had caused. Months later, Maya learned that James was getting married to a woman from a wealthy, influential family. The wedding was the talk of the town, a grand event filled with the elite. Maya wasn't invited, of course, but she knew she couldn't let James walk into his new life without facing the consequences of his actions. The room was frozen, the kind of quiet where you could hear someone set down a glass on the table. Maya took a moment, scanning the sea of faces. She caught glimpses of confusion, curiosity, and just the faintest hint of dread from the older woman sitting stiffly in the front row, likely the bride's mother. James moved closer to the stage, his body tense like he might bolt up there to stop her. But he didn't. He couldn't. His feet seemed glued to the floor. Maya's smile didn't falter. She held the microphone like she was born for this moment. "I won't take too much of your time," she continued, her tone polite, but with a sharpness that cut through the air. "Weddings are about truth, love, and fresh starts, aren't they? And I think it's only fair to honor that." A few murmurs broke out in the crowd, but Maya didn't waver. She turned her attention to the bride, who sat rigid at the center table, her perfectly made-up face unable to hide her unease. "You look stunning," Maya said to her, genuine enough to make the compliment sting. "Truly, I see why James fell for you. He always had a thing for beauty." Someone coughed awkwardly, and Maya's smile grew wider. She looked back at James, locking eyes with him. He was standing now, his fists clenched at his sides, the muscles in his jaw working overtime. "But you know," she went on, her voice carrying effortlessly through the hall, "sometimes before you can truly start fresh, it's important to close old chapters properly. Don't you agree, James?" She tilted her head slightly, as if daring him to speak. He didn't. The bride shifted in her chair, her hands gripping the edges of the tablecloth, her knuckles white. Maya took a breath, savoring the tension in the air. "So, before you and James begin your beautiful journey together," she said, glancing back at the bride, "there's something I think you deserve to know." The crowd collectively leaned forward, hanging on her every word. Here's an expanded version of the part you shared. "I just wanted to share a few things about the man of the hour," Maya said, her tone almost too casual, as if she were making a toast. She reached into her small clutch and pulled out her phone. A nervous buzz went through the room as she tapped the screen, the tension building with each passing second. And then her voice echoed through the speaker recording of an argument between her and James. It was muffled at first, the sound of hurried breathing and anger, but then his words came through, sharp and unmistakable. "People like you don't belong in my world." The room collectively inhaled. A woman near the back audibly whispered, "Oh my God." Maya let the recording play for another moment, long enough for the weight of his words to settle like a storm cloud over the elegant hall. Then she stopped it and let the silence linger, her eyes never leaving James. He stood frozen near the edge of the stage, his face pale and his lips slightly parted, as though he wanted to speak but couldn't find the words. The bride, still seated, looked like someone had just pulled the rug out from under her. Her hands gripped her lap tightly, her nails digging into the delicate fabric of her dress. Maya took a step forward, holding up a stack of neatly printed papers. "But that's not all," she said, her voice steady and clear. "James, you may have fooled a lot of people here with your charm, but this," she held the papers higher, turning slightly so the crowd could see, "this is who you truly are." She unfolded one of the pages and began reading aloud, her voice unshaken. "She's so desperate for approval," Maya quoted. "Thinks a degree from some no-name college will change anything." Gasps and muttered exclamations broke out. Maya looked around the room, letting the weight of the words settle in. Then, calmly, she held up another page, the printed screenshot clearly visible to those in the front rows. "Here's one where James so kindly referred to me as the charity case he regrets." End. The bride's mouth opened slightly, but no words came out. Her family leaned in close to one another, whispering in harsh tones. Their once friendly expressions now hardened. Someone near the back of the room muttered, "Is this real?" James finally found his voice. "Maya, stop," he said, stepping forward, his voice louder now, tinged with desperation. "This isn't the time or place." "Oh, it's exactly the time and place," Maya interrupted, her eyes meeting his with a calm ferocity. "Because while you're standing here acting like the perfect gentleman, everyone deserves to know who you are when no one's watching." She turned her attention back to the bride, her expression softening just slightly. "I'm sorry you had to find out like this," Maya said, her voice quieter but no less firm. "But you deserve the truth." The bride stared at her, her lips trembling, before her gaze shifted to James. "Is this true?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. James didn't respond. His silence spoke louder than any words could. Maya took a deep breath, returning her focus to the room. "I hope this serves as a reminder to everyone here," she said, her voice cutting through the thick tension in the air. "Money and status don't define character. Actions do." The room buzzed with whispers, some guests leaning toward one another, others simply sitting in stunned silence. Maya calmly placed the microphone back on its stand, her composure unshaken. She straightened her dress, glanced briefly at James, and then turned on her heel. As she walked out of the room, heels clicking softly on the polished floor, her head was held high. The door swung shut behind her, leaving the crowd to pick up the shattered pieces of what had once seemed like a perfect evening. The fallout was immediate. The bride's family demanded an explanation from James, who stammered and stumbled over his words, unable to justify his behavior. The wedding didn't end as planned. The bride, humiliated and angry, called off the celebrations and walked out. As for Maya, she received messages of support from several guests who applauded her courage. Some even apologized for being complicit in James's behavior by laughing at his past remarks. Maya's bold actions sparked conversations about the importance of standing up to prejudice, even in spaces where it's disguised as humor or elitism. James's reputation took a hit, with many in his social circle distancing themselves from him. Meanwhile, Maya's bravery inspired others to speak out against those who hide their biases behind wealth and status. This story is a reminder that silence enables injustice. Maya's decision to expose James wasn't just about personal vindication, it was a stand against prejudice and the facade of perfection that often hides it. It's a lesson in courage, self-respect, and the power of standing up for the truth, no matter the cost. Subscribe for more powerful stories of resilience and justice. And let's celebrate those who stand against discrimination and hypocrisy.